Hello everyone, I hope you're all having a great day today, and in this video we're going to be doing a review for Spider-Man, which came out in 2002. Keep in mind there will be some spoilers for the movie, and without any further ado, let's go ahead and hop right into the review. As you probably know, this was a very important movie for the superhero genre. In the late 20th century, they had the Superman movies with Christopher Reeves that had special effects that were pretty good for the time, and of course there were the Batman movies, which showed how superhero movies can be dark, and of course you had this, which was very important in terms of CGI, as people started to see how CGI could make these superhero movies seem possible. And this was shortly before the Dark Knight trilogy came out a few years later, and then the Marvel Cinematic Universe and the DC Extended Universe. All of these big superhero movies started coming out shortly after. And this is a movie where you can definitely tell they put a lot of effort into it. They spent a long time getting everything right. And one of the things that's really great about this movie is the casting. Tobey Maguire as Peter Parker, aka Spider-Man, is a very good casting choice. Uncle Ben and Aunt May were perfectly casted, as well as MJ and Harry. And of course our villain, the Green Goblin, was played by Willem Dafoe, who I think was pretty much born to play that role. But the most impressive one, in my opinion, was J.K. Simmons as J. Jonah Jameson, one of the best performances of all time. The characterization for all of these characters are spot on as well. Obviously, Peter is supposed to be a nerd, so he kind of acts like one, and then he actually turns out to be pretty cool as Spider-Man. When he is a nerd and he's in high school at the beginning of the film before he graduates, as the new Ninja Turtles would say, he has negative Riz. The romance, I think, is actually done very good. I think people say that the chemistry wasn't really good between the actors in this, but I would beg to differ. It's supposed to be pretty awkward. Of course, this was directed by Sam Raimi, who kind of added some horror elements into it when Spider-Man was transforming. And the score by Danny Elfman is one of the greatest superhero scores of all time. Actually, one of the best film scores of all time. Just generally speaking, Danny Elfman music is pretty amazing. And this is just a good traditional superhero story. Back before 10 superhero movies came out every year and there was a lot of novelty to seeing them, this has really already become a classic. It's just very iconic as well as quotable, especially with the great power comes great responsibility. This is pretty much the perfect origin story for Spider-Man. There are sequences pulled right out of the comics. And the thing is, all of our main characters feel all these different crazy emotions because of all the insane stuff that goes on. Obviously, Norman Osborn is having a crisis due to his company and him turning into the Green Goblin and becoming a psychopath. You have MJ, who has like 3 different boyfriends in this movie, and Harry going through all these different emotions as his father is becoming a psychopath and he's wanting to fall in love. And of course, Spider-Man himself, who has to take on the responsibility of being a superhero, and of course his uncle dies in a way that he realizes he could have prevented, so he has to learn to not be selfish and care for others. And of course all the other characters in the story don't even know who Spider-Man's real identity is until Green Goblin finds out later on in the movie. There's a lot of good emotion in this movie, a lot of cool action, and just cool sequences. In terms of the costume design, I think the Spider-Man costume itself was actually really good, pretty much spot on, pretty much perfect. And then there's the Green Goblin costume, which of course is iconic, and I don't think it's terrible by any means, but a lot of people have complained that it's just too metallic. It's just a big mask that and the mouth doesn't move, and from some angles you can see like purple highlights that they intentionally added, but it's overall only green. If you actually look into the behind the scenes for this movie, it was originally supposed to be like an animatronic mask that they ended up changing. They could have at least put some more purple on him. Even the Green Goblin Fortnite skin I feel like was a better design, and his pumpkin bombs don't actually really look like pumpkins. They're just like these little metallic spheres that have green on them. And apparently the whole reason they changed from the animatronic mask to the costume we know today is because the original one was apparently too scary for kids. But this movie was actually almost rated R because the final battle was so intense, and so they actually had to go back and re-edit it before they released it so that it could be rated PG-13. So I don't really know why they were worried about the costume being too scary. And there is kind of a little bit of a small problem in there that I feel this is a little bit inconsistent in tone. Overall, it's actually not too lighthearted, but it can be a little bit goofy at different times. And then there's other sequences like the final battle, which are kind of brutal. And another small problem, the CGI and green screen used in this movie isn't really great by today's standards. It's entirely watchable, and it was very important that this movie came out and was a pioneer of that era where we commonly use CGI and green screen a lot, but not all of it is entirely smooth. And even the Lord of the Rings movies, which have pretty good VFX even by today's standards, were coming out at the same time. So you do kind of have something to compare it to. And another tiny little problem is there's these weird gaps in time because the movie starts off kind of at the end of the school year before Peter graduates, and then he tries to get a job during the summer, but you can't really ever tell what time of the year it is. It's just in random scenes they mention, oh, he's in college now, and then all of a sudden, oh, it's Thanksgiving, and it kind of catches you by surprise. Other than that, though, really all the other problems I have with this movie are pretty much nitpick. Like when the Green Goblin kills those people with the bomb and they just turn into skeletons. That's definitely a little bit weird. So overall, I think this is a movie that could be slightly overrated because some people just have a lot of nostalgia for it and say this is a 10 out of 10 perfect movie, and I don't think it's quite there. But this is also more so underrated because a lot of the younger generations don't really have an appreciation for how good this movie is. Because as I said, this is an iconic classic, definitely better than The Amazing Spider-Man. And I would say overall one of the best movies of the 21st century for sure. There are definitely some small problems in there that I mentioned that I think it improved upon when you go to the second movie. But overall, this is pretty fantastic. So on the scale of 0 to 100, we'll give Spider-Man a 92%. Definitely recommend it, especially if you're a fan of Spider-Man or even just the superhero genre in general. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. If there's a movie you would like me to review, just let me know in the comment section down below, and I will see you guys in the next one.